Thank you, Chiara, for introducing the afternoon, and very warm welcome everyone on this Saturday for joining us. I think we are a little bit ahead of time, but I think I'll just give a sort of general introduction and I will hand over to Michèle. So our topic today is what is fashion tech today? Chiara also already has mentioned that when we started off our Education for Fashion Tech project, we had like a sort of discussing fashion tech as a term. We were thinking this is too much a container of definition. So we worked in the beginning on starting to refine a definition of fashion tech. And we came up with three subdefinitions of fashion tech. So first it was smart textiles, it was wearable technology, and it was digital manufacturing. Three definitions actually very much started from an approach from a designer approach and the production of fashion. But I think during the 3 years that we worked on the project, I think it was fine. This definition worked very well. But slowly, I think we discovered that actually there's much more to tell about this area and the definition of what fashion tech today exactly is and how we proceed. So our roundtable today is about this definition of fashion tech and how we can explore or widen up this definition. We invited two young startups, small enterprises, that have been part of Define, which is another European project for startups, where we actually mentor and help them to explore their company. Two of them will joining us in a panel, and they prepared a small presentation. And then we will start off the discussion where you all are happy to participate and explore where we're talking about today. I would like to introduce, first of all, Michèle Danjoux, who is aligned to the LCF as a research coordinator and is working on this project for a long time. And also, but I'm not sure if is she already joining us, Chitra Buckley, who is our course leader for the MA Fashion and Entrepreneurship, and was leading and doing research on the Define project. Michèle, I'm happy to hand over to you.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I would like to invite or introduce our first speaker, Jana Neyman-Canova. She's joining us today to tell us a little about her startup company and to a little bit more about an expanded definition of what fashion tech actually is. So Shana is the founder of SenStyle. She has a degree in engineering in apparel from Omsk State Technical University in Russia. She has a master's in design and innovation from the Instituto Europeo de Design, Madrid, and a background in fashion production. Her motivation to enter the field of fashion tech was to support the industry in advancing mindfulness sourcing. To this aim, SenStyle is a company concerned with transferring the touch and feel of textiles into the online world, a statement that connects Shana's belief to her belief that digital solutions should not wipe out the sensory side of fashion, but rather magnify and enrich our experiences while enabling innovation. So welcome to Shana.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sure. I can hear you very well.
Hi, Zana.
Hi, everyone. Should I start with presentation now? Just the introduction and.
Yes, please start. You can say a little bit more if you like about introducing yourself, and then tell us about your idea and how you work with fashion tech. and the aspirations you have to look at the sensory side of technologies?
Yeah. I would like to share the presentation I have done, but it's asking the permission, which I gave before. I don't know. Give me a few seconds. I will do it. I will rejoin now in a second, okay? I just need
That's fine.
to restart for the settings. I will do it right now.
So I'm gonna take advantage of these few minutes of technical alignment to say what I wrote in the chat. We would like you to feel free to ask any question you have, to interact with our discussant. It is fine for us if you would like to write questions in the chat, and then we can at the end of this first presentations to read your questions and to have the discussant and moderators to interact with you. If you need an immediate answer to any doubt or curiosity you have, you can also raise your hand. There's this function available. So if you raise your hand, we know that you would like to take the word. So there are these two ways. What we would like to do is to hear from you and to interact with you as much as possible, even if we know that with the digital mean is not always so let's say easy or friendly as it would have been in person. I guess that Jana is back.
Yes, Anna is back, but she's still struggling with her presentation, and she might be able to send it to Michèle.
I'll try to share.
Yes. She can send it over to us if you like, to Susanna or Livia, and we can share it. Okay,
Okay,
Jana?
I'll go do it now, yeah, because it's again asking, I don't know why. I will do it to Michèle. I will send it right now.
Okay.
There is a first question in the chat box, and yes, it's the tuning document. Actually, we developed a framework for an MA study. That's right. So we don't have similar resources for a bachelor program. So we focused. You're very right. We focused on a framework and unit descriptions for an MA. Yeah, and that's different from a BA. So yeah, we don't have to. I think very likely a couple of those things you could actually use for a bachelor, but it's primarily written for a 2 years or 1.5 year MA course in a European system. But actually working on it, we also realized that each country has, and each university has different structures and different. But I think in line with the learning outcomes, it's really written in the context of the Dublin descriptors. Where are we?
I still don't have the PowerPoint. Maybe we could move to Teresa first. If Teresa, are you do you feel ready if I'm to introduce you? And then we can return to Shana.
Let's try on my end.
Right, let me have a look. Okay, great. Hi. So
Hi.
Shana, we'll move to Teresa and then we'll come back to you. So if I could introduce our who now is our first speaker, Teresa Burl. She's one of the co-founders and head of product at the company startup Flow Studio. It's a contemporary product development platform for the fashion industry. Her background is as a trained seamstress and pattern cutter with over 10 years experience working for multiple renowned London-based labels, including Vivienne Westwood, Christopher Kane, Erdem and Burberry. Before her shift to FashionTech, Teresa observed that there was an inefficient analog use of methods where tracking and exchange of information was not so efficient, and it was difficult to progress a collection. At Flow Studio, their mission is to transform these outmoded ways of working within the industry and to replace them with digital solutions. So I'd like to welcome Teresa.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen with you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So hello, everybody. I'm Teresa. I'm one of the 4 co-founders of Flow Studio. Flow Studio is an affordable and easy-to-use platform supporting fashion SMEs' product journey from inception to production. And just to tell you who's behind our startup, it's literally like 4 friends. We are all, or used to be based in London. Now we are all over Europe. It's myself, who's head of product, Chloe, who's our UI UX designer, and Florian and Ollie, who are our developers. So as you see already, we bring a mixture of multidisciplinary backgrounds into our startup. What was the reason behind starting Flow Studio? As Michèle said already in her introduction, myself, I've been working as a pattern cutter and seamstress in the fashion industry for the last 10 years. And I've realized that in so many companies, like these processes of communication and of tracking all the information is really dated. Like we have like loads of email threads. It's really hard to find information, and information is getting lost, and therefore the development process and production process is getting really expensive and unorganized. Lots of companies are still using pen and paper. People are leaving companies. The information is getting lost with them because it's nowhere recorded. And just talking to people within the industry, it really seems like across the industry, doesn't matter if you're like a small startup or a renowned established company, everybody has the same problems. The main issue is though that especially for the small and medium companies, software products which are out there and certain PLM systems are simply too expensive to be affordable. And also, especially for the smaller companies, are not really easy to use because they're far too complex to help them in their day-to-day workflow. And that's where we said, okay, let's do something about that and focus on like the whole development process from the idea of the designer to the end product. And we start with like the very beginning with the inception of the product and supporting the development process of Flow Studio through Flow Studio. And just to show you how we try to implement that and how we're trying to help you with Flow Studio, I'll just show you a couple of like features of our platform. So literally right now, what you see here is the base of Flow Studio. Flow Studio is simply a platform in the cloud. You don't have to install anything. You can literally, as like a small company, log in and upload all your information in a secure space and add your collaborators and team members to have all the team members in one place to share the information. So here you see like your collection overview, which has all your projects in one place. You see all your deadlines, your seasons, all the key information, and you can reorder them in the way you want to, and everybody has access to. Obviously, you want to know more about your collection and your styles. So we created a digital line sheet where you can see all your styles like in one place and all the key information in one place. And depending on which department you're working on, which information is relevant and important to you, you can customize it the way that you only see the information which is important to you and not to clutter your mind with any unnecessary information. Then what's very important is, and what we found out through our interviews and research, like with industry experts, is that quite often it's kind of the simple tasks which are creating lots of hassle and wasting your time during your daily work, is simple things like image and file upload. Everybody knows, coming from a fitting, you have like loads of material, lots of images to work with, and prepping all these images, sharing them with your colleagues it's quite a time-consuming task at the moment. So we made this really easy to simply upload all your files and images, and everybody knows where to find them, because we found it very important to have all the information within the context of your style. So if you would join a new team, or if you get someone new on board, you know, okay, I'm looking for the images of the Mariko joggers, so I will go into that style and find them there and can work with them. Another thing we try to add is that everybody is working on their mobile devices at the moment. They have like their mobiles within fittings. You have access to a camera straight away and can upload all these images into your designated folder. As I said before, like email threads are another like issue where like loads of information is simply getting lost, or you can't search for the information. If you haven't been in the thread from the beginning on, you can't find old information about a style, so you don't have any track of information and the history of your style. So we are adding, again, like the conversations and the comments within the context of your collection and your style, that everybody knows where to go for, where to look at, where to find the information which is relevant to you. Another important point was the responsibility within a company, and also if you're like a one-man show, it is really important to structure your day, to structure your workload, and to see what is on your day-to-day list to do. So we created a task, a very simplified task scheduler, where you can add all your projects and style tasks in there, and you can track the deadlines. You can see who's responsible for which task and if it has been worked on or not. Again, that replaces all your email threads where you have to assign tasks to someone and you don't know if something is done or not, and just helps you declutter your mind. What's very important for Flow Studio or for us is also to educate the next generation of fashion designers, and quite often designers are coming from non-fashion backgrounds as well, and they don't really have the education of what is necessary, which information is necessary to pass on to suppliers to get their product made. So we're providing a framework of a tech pack for them, where you can track all the information regarding your make comments, like how is your style created and which components are going into that garment, which is also captured through your measurements, which you have to track, and your trim sheet, which is very important to see which components are part of your style, how much fabric is going to be used, and what to order in the end. And to make it a bit easier, we created a material library where you as a designer and team can upload all the materials and components which are relevant to your collection. So it's really easy for team members to allocate fabrications and components to your styles. And as you see, we wanted to make Flow Studio really easy, really simple, that it's super helpful for your team and for yourself to create your styles, to keep track of everything, and to support your workflow. So currently, Flow Studio is in beta. We've extended that due to COVID, and we are more than happy to welcome anybody who's interested in Flow Studio. It is for free to join our beta, and important for us is to create a software for the fashion industry, which is created not just by us, but by you as well, who can give us input to what is important to improve your day-to-day workflow. And by that, that's me. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
Michèle, you're mute.
So yes, thank you, Teresa, for that, and really interesting presentation. Lots of interesting thoughts and ideas coming out there, which we would like to discuss a little bit later in the roundtable. So we'll hold on to some of those ideas, and we'll move now to Jana. Hopefully now we've resolved the technical hitches, and welcome again, Jana. I think Polimi can share your PowerPoint.
That's great. Hi, everyone. I hope will not be a problem and I will not be cut because internet is unstable a little bit, but hopefully everything will be fine. So I will switch off the video for better quality. And next slide, please. Can we move to next slide? Yes. This everybody knows, these textile trade fairs, how they look, and they didn't change since 73 until 2019 because pandemic came, and today textile sourcing looks a little bit different. We can move to next slide. And the whole industry today is looking into digital solution and trying to solve this problem. And actually, it's just insane for designers to understand what's the real difference between all of those options. And there are many thousands of fabrics like this. And also for textile suppliers, it's a lot of cost, and they are shipping right now a lot of those physical samples. So the fashion industry was not actually prepared for pandemic, and especially when it comes to the sourcing of the materials. So this is the problem that we are trying to solve. But first, I would like to show you and have a look on what's going on in the textile digitization today. Let's move to another slide. Yes, so basically, we know that there are a lot of material databases that existed for a long time ago, but most of the time they have been used for easing the order taking process and invoicing, even though there are some PLM solutions like Centric Software who are trying to solve this problem with the visual search. And this works only for prints and laces and for just color palette. Then there are also companies who are trying to get a high definition quality of the textile imaging for 3D softwares rendering. And then 3D design and 3D design software facing another issue which relates to the fabric behavior and the way fabric drapes. And here again, all those companies created a different equipment that designers have to do physical testing. It takes quite a lot of time to input those parameters in those programs in order to simulate realistically the drape itself. And then there is a third part, which is haptic tech, and we see actually already coming out several devices and technologies, and there are even have been trials with some fashion brands. But the main issue is how do you actually input the touch and feel data of the textiles into those haptic devices. So what we do, we can move to the next slide. Our solution is focusing on the touch and feel of the textiles. So we have developed a sensor that reads textiles in a special way. It's not a simple scan, it's not a simple image, it's very complicated sensors and technologies combined together. And you actually put fabric between this platform and you leave this box. It takes around 5 seconds to take the data set. And then this data set, with the help of AI, can eliminate actually physical testing. We can move to the next slide. Here we see that today what we achieved is those 3 functions. We can give you, find to you 100% match of the textiles by their touch and feel. And we can also tell which textiles digitally, without touching the fabrics, which textiles are actually similar by their touch and feel properties, and color can be removed. So, and at the same time, it's just additional benefit that we have. We can identify colors accurately. And now we are developing the Fabric Scout application, which is what it basically does. We can move to the next slide. It connects 2 databases of fashion brands with their styles and their products and previous collection, 2 database of textile suppliers, the digital libraries. What it helps, it brings a new way of communication when we use matching and referral concept. For example, the designers have a lot of fabrics from their previous collection, from previous samples that they order, that they are looking for similar textiles. Instead of putting keywords or trying to explain over the phone the fabric you are looking for, you can just scan it and find in the textile database in hundreds in 1 click, just a few that you need, and to make sure that this is what you are looking for actually, the quality, the way the fabric feels and the way it drapes. And you can remove the color. And we give actually the percentage to tell you how much the fabric actually is similar by its physical properties. And with the time, you can, it's like a habit, you can learn and understand, and you can even customize yourself. What for you is 90% similar, what for you is 70% similar. And it can work vice versa also when you click on the textile and you can see which kind of styles you have done previously from similar fabrics, and can be a new inspirational source. So that's in terms of the functional benefits and more like, I would say, a tool-wise solution that we're giving, but there is a much bigger value that we are trying to build currently, and we can move to the next slide. It's related to sustainability issues that we have. We know that there are a lot of exciting material actually developments coming out. There are a lot of circular technologies and dyeing processes, animal-free leather. However, there is one big bottleneck. It's a designer's hand and designer's knowledge, because all this responsibility, the choice of the fabrics, it's on the designer side. And it's based on subjective view and knowledge of this person. It's based on the access to this range of the textiles of this professional. And also, the more data a person has and the more it can actually process, the better choice is. However, analytical thinking, we cannot compete with computers. And then the next slide. And this is where we come, because you see here on the right side is how we see textiles. It's a very objective analysis of the textiles. We can cluster them, we can organize them. And what we are proposing to the industry today, it's a goal-oriented sourcing strategy. It's a part of, we actually enter as a finalist of one social innovation competition from European Union, which is called Reimagine Fashion. So results will be in November, so we are looking forward. But what we are trying to give to the industry, it's a system where we supporting the product development from the beginning to the end and post-production quality controls. For example, in the beginning, we just check and analyze the offer of fashion brands, and we can tell them which fabric they have to eliminate from their offer, which fabric they have to bring more, which fabric is actually a DNA of the fashion brand, and probably their brand is associated with this. And we do this with our with data that we gather from textiles, with data from sales activities, with other type of information all together gathered. And then we give the roadmap, and we actually use our Fabric Scout application for efficient search of fabric and discovery according to those rules and to those goals that we set up for each company. So one of the interesting projects that we are doing right now, it's the next slide. I would like to talk about this more because it has actually the fast impact on the industry, is that we are using our similarity percentage function in order to substitute textiles for more sustainable options. The idea is that designers actually create the collection from their inspirational and creative ideas from fabrics that they have around or they found amazing and nice. And then we just, as a final step before going for production, we scan all the collection and we give alternative option when design doesn't actually change. It looks and feels similar, but the materials are more sustainable from the digital library of eco-friendly fabrics. And then it's just a decision of the management to choose according to the price, delivery times, and etc. We are developing this project in the partnership with Circular.Fashion. It's a German-based company that gives the industry the services in educating professionals, workshops in circular fashion. And then they have different platforms for development of circular products, and also the material library with circular textiles. However, after our analysis, we realized we need to bring more textile suppliers with sustainable fabrics. So we are very open. If you know somebody, or you are part of some company who are producing actually sustainable textile, or you are a fashion brand who would like also to try, or you know somebody, please tell us, because they can join us for tell about this project. They can join us for free, because the more companies we have participating, will have more data, and we will see much better results. And it's just exciting to see how much actually we can substitute in meters and the percentage in terms of each collection. So we can move to the next slide. And I would say where we are today and why we're actually very busy, even there is the pandemic, and we are facing again some lockdowns, especially in Spain, because we are based in Spain. So we are actually getting for mass digitization, and for that we are coming out with our new sensors, which are more fashion friendly, I would say, much nicer, and we are exciting ourselves because we are going to use those sensors, and they're more robust, they acquire much more data, they're more detailed, and we can perform much more tasks and much accurately. Then we are focused again on our application Fabric Scout, because it's innovation not only in technology but also in the user experience that designers and textile suppliers didn't face before, and we are working with this with our partners. We are creating Textile Hub because we have to do some testing for acquiring labels for the training of our AI algorithms, and it's quite a lot of work. That's why we need some team expansion, so we are quite busy with this, but we are also open to get more companies in our list to start already in the next year these activities. So if somebody wants to join, just please let us know. And let's move to the next slide. There is one point with which I would like to finish the presentation, and we all know that the fashion is really very polluting industry, and it's just, you know, just when you think that we produce 150 billion garments per year and it consumes 93 billion cubic meters of water, which is enough to cover the needs of 5 million people, and you know that 30% of that it's actually never sold and gets burned or just wasted. We say, we can move to the next slide, that material side of fashion is actually very critical. Can we move to the next slide? Yes. So, and again, next slide. That was mean for me, but So, and then we have a second side, which is digitalization. We talk about this, that we are the industry in a very early stage. It's just around 10%, and we're just starting this journey as such. But it's actually a good point that we're just starting, because we can be more careful. Because when we talk a lot about digital fabrics, we talk about digital product development, we talk about digital communication, virtual stores, and everything online, we actually saying, we can move to the next slide, that material side of fashion is not important. So basically what I see today in the industry, this is a contradiction, and this is the way we should not allow digitalization to go, because the material is critical. And the last slide is actually on what, we can move to the next one, is what I want to finish on the purpose of why I have created InStyle, is that digital should not wipe out the material side of fashion, but rather magnify, put our attention on it, enrich our experiences, and make us to be more conscious about what fashion is. And move for discussion and questions. I finish with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shana. Great presentation. Again, lots of ideas to expand on in our roundtable. Thank you. So now we're going to move to our third speaker, who I think José is introducing. It's Chitra Buckley.
Yeah, I'm happy, Chitra.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I already gave a short introduction. So Chitra worked at our fashion business school for quite a long time, and co-developed the MA in fashion and entrepreneurship, which she's leading for a couple of years. And she was also when we started our Define project, she was aligned to the project, doing some research and interviews and getting like a knowledge out of what's happening with the mentoring scheme of the designers. So that's Chitra's background, and I think that's probably enough for her as an introduction. Chitra, happy you joining us.
Thank you, José. I've actually just sent my PowerPoint through to Michèle. I think, have you got that there, Michèle?
Michèle is on mute, so I'm not sure if she's, yeah, but yeah.
1 second, I'm just looking in my emails for the PowerPoint.
Should I put my video on as well, maybe?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm this disembodied voice. Thank you for that introduction, José.
Yeah. Here it is.
Great, thank you.
I've given control to you.
Oh, have you? Okay. So we need to put this on to slideshow. Is that how you do? Yeah. I can still see the small slides at the side.
Oh, 1 second.
Maybe, okay.
1 second.
You could please put it on to. Okay, so thank you for putting this up. This is, so I'm sort of going from the general PowerPoint from Define, and then I'll talk about the mentoring more towards the end. So obviously the aim of Define, as you have heard probably already, it was developing a fashion tech network. And sort of the aim of it really is to develop this almost autonomous community for fashion tech startups, as well as experts within the industry. Okay, I can't see the slide there. For me, it's just blank. Is that what everyone else is seeing?
Yeah, it's now, I think, yeah, we're back again, but now it's small.
Okay.
Yeah, it's back. Thank you, Michèle.
Thanks, Michèle. So the aim was to fuse, if we can move to the next slide, please. Oh, can I move it? Okay, thank you. So the aim was to support the fusion of cutting-edge technologies and innovation into European fashion and design industries, build up a network of incubators and accelerators, as well as startups and SMEs. And along with that, to actually introduce the financiers as well, to form a more comprehensive fashion tech community. And the aim was around promoting knowledge sharing, new ideas and collaboration. As you know, this came from the COSME project, and it's a 3-year project starting in July 2018. Sorry, next slide. Okay, next slide again, please. The Define project brought in sort of 3 main parties: the fashion and design institutions, Polimi, FPM, IFM in Paris, and then LCF, as well as business support organizations, as well as specialist networks. And this really is what makes it such a comprehensive community, because all of the different aspects of developing a community are catered to within the 3 different areas. So it's typical of a knowledge exchange project, but it was very comprehensive. And that is what, speaking to the startups who have been mentored, this is what they really appreciate, this ability to connect with players within the academic institutions, but also people who have a strong knowledge of the industry, strong knowledge of trends, as well as the business support organizations who understand and are connected with third-party organizations such as investors and other IP and other specialists who can provide support. Next slide, please. So one of there are 3 sort of main focuses that the community wanted to build on. This is sharing knowledge, sharing information, sharing technology, and other sort of skills and other contacts, etc. Next slide, please. Connect. Again, this is what we saw coming through the mentoring program, that connections were absolutely critical. And in addition to it being critical, timing was really important, because businesses were able to connect when they needed specific information or specific insights within a particular area, such as IP, such as finance, such as technology. Next slide, please. Innovate. The other key sort of byproduct, obviously, is innovation within fashion tech. It's at the center of what the fashion tech community is all about. And it's really interesting to see the different businesses in terms of their level of innovation and also the stage of innovation, because the stage of innovation also demands a particular type of support. If businesses are, for example, SenStyle, I think, being mentored, they were very much at the R&D stage. So business planning, business modeling was not necessarily that important at that point. But for other businesses who have developed prototypes and looking more towards commercialization, then a different type of support was needed at that point. So innovation is critical, and also the different type of tailored support is important at that point. Next slide, please. So Define was built on different types of support from the beginning, leading to mentoring support. So there were various networking events before COVID, which were face-to-face, various training activities, such as investment readiness, business support, what else was there? Sort of more technology support. And then this led on to mentoring support for selected businesses who fitted within the 3 categories of fashion tech types of businesses, and then as well as knowledge sharing. Next slide, please. So the mentoring support started in October. Mentoring support was offered in 2 phases. The first phase started in October, November 2019, and due to COVID was extended to the end of August 2020. In the first phase, 11 businesses were selected. For the entire program, 25 businesses have been selected. So the second phase involves mentoring another 14 businesses. The selection process was based on FashionTech businesses, or startups I should say, who are producing new products, looking at new processes, or looking at new market approaches. So next slide, please. So the aim also, the sort of third, I guess, key aspect of Define is to develop the online platform for the Define community with the aim of providing or setting up a legacy so that the community can extend beyond the project. The project is due to be completed in June 2021. And the aim obviously is to build a strong community that can nourish itself and build upon itself. Yeah, and obviously with that legacy, it's to maintain an ongoing support so that businesses can feel more confident in developing and connecting with other people in the community. Next slide, please. The next couple of slides sort of provide some sort of information on the info days that were the face-to-face events done in various parts of Europe. And again, the emphasis on building specialist communities within different parts of Europe was really well received, because that meant that startups could connect with their counterparts within different parts of Europe and actually understand that marketplace, and which facilitated connections and entrance into that market. Next slide, please. We had boot camps in Milan and also Paris, Berlin, Budapest, as you've seen, London, and it's created through the two years, I guess, that it's been running at the moment. It's created a very strong community, which is again nourished by this online platform. Next slide, please. In terms of the events that were run, the info days looked at different aspects and provided information and sort of almost like an entry point really into the community. These were open to startups of all different levels, some people with some businesses with just good ideas, or some businesses that were more developed. And it opened, provided sort of opportunities to network, startups learned to pitch, and also connected with financiers. Next slide, please. So the eight months of mentoring provided bespoke support, and this bespoke element is what is really key, is that the businesses that were selected were across the different tracks of innovation. So whether a fashion wearable product, or a new process, or a new market approach. And that mentoring support provided was actually delivered by a group of mentors across Europe, in Paris, Milan, Borås in Sweden, and London. And the aim was to, again, identify mentors who were knowledgeable in specific aspects and could also intervene or provide interventions when that business needed it for a particular issue that they were facing at that time. Next slide, please. The 11 businesses mentored in the first phase are here, and Senstyle I know has just presented, as well as our Flow Studio. And we've had, we're developing case studies around 3 of these businesses, and actually trying to understand or learning to understand the real impact of the mentoring program in terms of the changes that they made to their business strategy, changes that they made to their perspectives in other areas as well. So out of the 11 businesses, 8 were selected for presenting at the investment seminar at the end of June in 2020, this year, sorry. And out of those, I think probably about 90% have actually had follow-up meetings with investors. At this point, it's a slow process, and the aim obviously is to get investment ultimately, but it's not a quick process. But having made those connections is a really key stage. Next slide, please. So the second round of mentoring is starting at the moment, and we've obviously learned some lessons from the first round of mentoring, which is being now integrated into the second phase. We don't know how that's going, but I'm sure the feedback that we got from the first phase of mentoring was really exceptional. So there's obviously that support has been really well appreciated. Next slide, please. These are the key sort of ideas, key learnings or findings we found from the research we've done on the first phase of mentoring. It was really important that the businesses being supported had connections with FashionTech specific mentors. So they really found that the mentors were expert, knowledgeable and passionate about the industry. And when you're building a new community, to have that specialization and access to experts is critical. And the impact that one business mentioned with actually did say it changed the offer proposition to a consultancy from being from their initial approach. So this is really important in terms of changing business strategy, and this is the kind of impact we're hoping that the mentoring has. Another key finding is the importance of the network and the connections. So the mentors were able to introduce the startups to people who can help them, as I said, with a very specific issue, whether it's business strategy, whether it's developing the technology, or even personal support as well. So the impact mentioned was a technical support at a critical time to develop a second prototype, which was really, it was timely and it was very, very important. Again, the next point is the fact that the support was timely. It was at the time when the business needed it. Often when startups go into an incubation program, it might be quite generic, so they're not FashionTech specific, or they might provide support, but it's with a sort of a standardized program. And with the bespoke mentoring program, the startups found that they got focused support when that business needed it. An example here was one startup who had actually applied for a patent already, but having IP support meant that she could understand trademarks and then develop a more focused IP strategy targeted at specific and selected European countries, and could develop a cost analysis for that. The last key finding that we found so far, I'm sure there are going to be other findings, was the fact that the strong community is really essential. And then the mentoring program actually also creates opportunities for the startups within that to contribute to the other members of the community. So it's sort of a self-perpetuating community, which is great. And we've really noticed that there's recognition that ongoing support for this community is essential for the growth of the FashionTech startups and businesses in that space. So I've got a last slide, but it's quite generic. So I'd actually like just to finish on the slide that I've just said, because I think you know, the findings are really important. And the last slide does give it the connection to the actual community. If you look on the website there, you can actually connect into the community, and we're seeing growth within that area, and we're seeing more and more people connecting. So yeah, that's all I have to say there. Thank you. I hope I didn't go over.
Thank you, Chitra. I think just Michèle is, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, Chitra. Really, again, very interesting. Especially when we now think about this expanded idea of what fashion tech actually is, and how we're moving forward in this field and with our understanding, especially thinking about then how do we support these young startups, these creative, innovative ideas that need to somehow find their way to market or to some sort of efficient and effective place to operate in ways that can help with sustainable issues, etc., as raised by Shana, for instance. So the purpose of this panel, as José said at the beginning, is really just to kind of unpack a little bit what fashion tech is today, because we're seeing that it is really an expanded field. It's no longer just about this idea of wearables, of digital manufacturing or smart textiles. It's embracing a whole new realm and has a lot of benefits. So we have a few questions, and we just hope to open this up. So the first thing that I'd just like to ask of each of our presenters, particularly the two, Jana and Teresa, is, in your opinion, at this point in time, what is fashion tech to you? What does it mean to you? I think you're muted, Jana.
I thought I unmuted, but you addressed well. I will start on this, and for me, it's like, again, as you said, it's very broad, and it's really related. It's like online-based solution. This is the first differentiation I do, because if you go to the material, it's more engineers and fashion people. If you go to more online, it's developers and fashion people. You know, this is. But everywhere when I see these two groups emerging, this is a fashion tech company for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
The mix.
Yes, it's the mix. Thank you. And Teresa?
Yeah, I can only second Shana on that. It is a very broad field, and I think that we're still in very early stages when it comes to fashion tech in comparison to other industries. And I think it is all about this multidisciplinary collaboration between different industries. That's what it makes a fashion tech product. It doesn't matter if it's the software industry, is it like the chemical lab around the corner you collaborate with. It's really up to us how we define it, and it really depends on whom we collaborate with, what fashion tech will be in the end.
That's a really interesting point, that it's up to us how we define it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Chitra, on this idea of how we define this idea of what fashion tech actually is.
Well, I think it's defined by this notion of collaboration, notion that it should be and is very broad, because it has to be a broad church in the sense that it's innovating as we speak, so the whole time, in the sense that it's developing through the collaboration, so we don't know what the end result is. And I think, coming into the community with that mindset allows for that focus on growth and I guess exploration, really, through connections. I think the one key thing though there is this idea of asking what the consumer wants as well, and being connected to a potential consumer, because that can also shape, obviously, what's being developed.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, you were talking about a much more comprehensive fashion tech community, Chitra, and so I guess if you're saying that it's about this exploration, that community is in a way endless. It keeps multiplying.
It does, and I think COVID has triggered a lot of new ideas, and a lot of actually sort of hope and inspiration for what is actually needed. I mean, we're seeing that in our platforms that we're using for education.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing that in the way we buy. We're seeing that in the way we want to dress. We're seeing that in the way we think about sustainability. So, yeah. You know, it's a broad community, and it's the stronger for being broad. Yeah.
I mean, I would like to move to the idea of the transformations COVID has caused in a minute, particularly responding to something Jana said about the fashion industry not being ready for that. But before we do that, can I just maybe ask again from Jana and Teresa, what you think is then required of people like yourselves to enter this field? You know, you've come from very different backgrounds, but you're both in this same umbrella field of fashion tech. You know, what do you think is required by people to enter this field?
I think simply curiosity and openness to reach out to experts in other fields to collaborate with. Because obviously we have our background, we have our knowledge, but in order to create this new product, this new tech product, fashion tech product, we have to reach out to other disciplines, other industries in order to create something new. And I think that's the key thing, not to be afraid to ask people for advice and to ask the experts to help you to understand kind of the other side.
Yeah.
And I would say from my experience, because since Style is very heavy company and really high tech, it's not only software, it's also engineering there. And I would say at one point I had a very much fashion background. I was working in the production, I was working with other brands on different projects. But then when I switched to technology and I started to learn more, I actually got into a very deep way in technology. I would say it really helped me today to understand much better how our solutions should be. And this is probably why I said, for me, fashion tech company is, or solution, when the two worlds collaborated together. Really the fashion industry, because they needed, the tech people needed expertise of fashion people to create that. Knowing the industry, how it works and what's the problem and how the processes are. And then there is developers or engineers team who have the knowledge how exactly to build the technical way the product. And what I see from my experience and my team, that it took me a lot of efforts to make these two teams work well. It took I needed to educate engineers and developers on really the idea how the fashion industry works, that we still work with samples, physical samples, because they were shocked. They said they really send these physical samples today. They couldn't even imagine this. And they said, why you don't remember textiles? So let's do an experiment. And then they understood deeper the problem. Then they understood more that there are actually a lot of textiles, because they never pay attention to that. They get more deep, they started to learn more. And then on the side of my textile people with whom we were working with different, who actually helped those engineers, they started to, I pushed them to learn more about how these things works, how the architecture works, how all the ecosystem, because otherwise, the ideas don't come up. if these two don't have a basic understanding of technology and the fashion industry. This is, for me, I think the success that we see today and why our solution, with minimum efforts, we got really good results, because I spent the time to make sure that both sides have a little bit of knowledge of each other, kind of backgrounds.
Yeah.
And in my case, it was good because it's my unique kind of experience. They have both backgrounds. I really dive deep into the technology. Even engineering, I can tell you so much now about lights and optics and physics, and I can tell you so much about coding and Amazon services and everything. It's like, but I needed also to have this kind of level of both of the sides in my team.
Yeah. So you, I mean, your background is so different from Teresa's, for instance, but Teresa has also had to learn these things, these kind of looking into coding and looking into understanding technical platforms. I mean, your experience, yeah, you've got very different backgrounds. But Chitra, I don't know if you want to maybe respond, having worked with so many young startup companies, at what is required to enter the field. You know.
Well, Shannon mentioned that word curiosity, and I think that's critical. This idea of being open. Unfortunately, even now, you know, our education is really quite discipline specific. So, you know, it's very rare to get that crossover between fashion and technology purely through education. It's only when you're actually working and that all these chance collaborations or chance meetings or this idea of exploration, being curious, that an individual can actually cross over into different disciplines. And I hope that answers your question. Yeah. I just think curiosity is essential.
I want to add one more point that is, I think, also was critical in our journey, at least, is that by going into the field that is very difficult for you to understand, for example, for fashion professional, they will think, oh, so much tech, I don't want to know this. But it's actually what is important is not to understand how everything works, is to have an opportunity, like a possibilities to open to know that there are so many possibilities, that it can be done this way, this way, and this way. And this is from where after ideas come and conversation happen in the team.
Yeah. And this is so important for us as educators to think about, you know, because you're outlining a whole set of skills that, you know, they're not subject specific. They are to do with how we work with others, our openness and willingness to learn from other disciplines, to, you know, merge our learnings from other spaces into this field of fashion tech. So I know, for instance, with you, Teresa, you've learned from the visual effects industry. I mean, your whole experiences have taken something from one industry and transferred it to another. I mean, I don't know if you want to say a few words about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant before with looking into other industries, what they're doing. And it happened that my co-founders had backgrounds in the VFX industry. And it was the same as what Sana said, that trying to make them understand how the fashion industry works, which is so complex and in a way unpredictable. Seeing that another creative industry, which is actually not too similar, has already implemented these workflows which don't exist or hardly exist in the fashion industry, actually was quite shocking to them to see, oh, why are we still working in that old-fashioned way? Why does it need to be that way? I mean, we couldn't produce a film if we wouldn't have these organized worksheets and workflows and templates in place. So that was really interesting for me, and that obviously helped me to get the education from their side of what is possible in a similar industry to transfer that then into fashion. But at the same time, we've been testing with companies, obviously seeing are they receptive for it? Is that actually something they can adapt to? And so how it kind of like all started and helped.
And you know, I would say also, to add into this point, that I learned actually this is the most important thing, is not really how great people in your team about technical or something behind, is they understand the holistic perspective, and they understand problem more deeply, and they actually feel it, not even understand, because I mean, when you take these terms, understand and feel, you know what's the difference actually in people, you know. So I always, based on that, when I see the meeting is finished, I want to check if everybody feels what we were talking about and not understands, you know. So, and I learned this in MIT, and in Boston when I was there, half year I spent with the projects working there, and it's an amazing system. It's really great the way it's set up, because they mix business people, which are finishing MBA, they mix people, engineers and technical, and they mix some other time kind of more from industry perspective. And I was from industry perspective coming to helping several startups who are very solid businesses today in doing this all the right flow, but the way they work all together, they always sit together, all three of them or four of them, usually it's one from each side, and then when they create the team, and the whole ecosystem actually in MIT as an educational organization, it's all about this. It's making those departments work, like different students work with each other, not only to create companies. They do a lot of hackathons, they do a lot of other kind of demo version for even companies, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, as educators, we do need to think about the support to enable you to enter the field, and that's one of the questions that in a bit to you, Chitra, which we'll come to about the support you've offered. We'll also be discussing kind of workshops and hackathons and ways of bringing interdisciplinarity into the curriculum in this particular FashionTech project, the ways we've done that later in the day. But it is all about having this interesting discussion about the expansiveness of fashion tech, the kind of interdisciplinary skills that are required, the soft skills versus the kind of harder technical skills of the fashion tech entrepreneur. But you know, how do we work with that? And that's something we'll need to look at as well. But if we can move on to the next question that I had down for you to consider, and it was kind of interesting that Shani, you raised this about the fashion industry not being ready for the COVID pandemic, and we're interested in how this ongoing pandemic, with the constraints and the limitations, is driving a more rapid paced transformation in the industry, but how that is actually being facilitated by fashion tech. I mean, you started to talk a bit about that, so I wonder if you could say a little bit more to us, please.
Actually, we saw a crazy interest when pandemic hit, like companies asking, and can you show us how we can work and what we can do? And there was like, and I know from other startups who also have been in the digital way trying to do this type of communication, it was a lot of coming the companies because they just didn't know what to do, and it's like, okay, let's have a look what's on the market before they didn't think about to look into this. But also it was a downside in terms of that we needed to stop for some time because the investment that we were getting was postponed, and so we were waiting some month when they will get clarification their budgets and everything. But everything is solved, everything is done. We are continuing, but at the same time, you know, it gave the confidence that you will have much faster probably go-to-market strategy. I mean, now there is no question. You don't need to explain so much. Companies see the value, they know, and they just, okay, let's do it. Let's try to find the most right solution. And I would say, being a positive, I actually felt like it was probably good for us to stop because we were developing super fast. And when pandemic hit, we had a time when I actually reconsidered the whole strategy, and I had the time to talk with professionals more carefully about some other stuff, and mentors from Define also. And there was a good, you know, like changing completely because the industry have been changing. You see that now sustainability can come faster. Now, like everything will be more agile, and that's great because and then you adjust yourself also and you say, okay, we can actually be more ambitious than we were before.
Yeah. Do you have any comments, Teresa, on how you think fashion tech is enabling us to really transform things in the industry at this particular time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to agree that when COVID hit, like everybody was in shock and all the companies went kind of into hibernation, I guess. And I'm still working as a pattern cutter, so I'm just like in these companies getting it like literally like face to face how they're struggling. And we literally did the same with Flow Studio as Sana did with SenStyle, that we took that time to pause and actually look at our values and go back to why we actually started that company. And with companies slowly trying to change their ways of working and obviously seeing, okay, we're forced into more flexible working environments and having to accept, okay, people are working from home and it's possible. Obviously, Flow Studio is a crucial part in making these communications and information tracking much easier. So it's definitely a positive out of whatever's happening at the moment for us, as it creates the openness of the companies looking into change of the workflows, openness to looking into fashion tech products and how they could adapt. But at the same time, I think the fashion industry is still figuring out their ways how to do that. I think we're not there yet in terms of, I think we're at the beginning of, we're trying to change something, but I think they haven't figured yet out how to implement these, how to get everybody on board. So I think there's still a bit of patience needed. But I guess we're on the right way.
But it's interesting that in terms of both the digital solutions that you're offering, they, in a way, respond to that idea of us not being able to touch so easily anymore. It's this idea that you can touch a textile without physically engaging with the textile through the knowledge that you provide, Shana, in your company. So these ideas are very transformative in themselves to the industry. And this just takes me to the last question before we open.
Maybe we can just open it up now for a question that comes in from Johannes that actually is referring to the presentation of Sana. And he asked her to explain the contradiction at the end of the talk, which confused me. Material side of fashion is not important. The digital should not rule out the material. Also wonder whether Central is not overemphasizing AE, automation and tech-driven solutions versus imagine sensory illusions. Okay, I'm not sure if maybe you can come in, Johannes, and just give a little more shine a light on your question.
I think before he enters, I actually got some what he was mentioning, because I could, I could just explain what I mean by that. But because I am following quite for a long time already innovation in the fashion industry, and I see a lot of talks in digitalization in the fashion. They all talk very nicely about 3D softwares, that a high level of rendering, they almost look realistic and everything, and nobody really talks about materials. They like discard this. They even, the last talk about 3D developments in the industry was a whole industry, the whole week was online. Probably everybody participated. The whole PLM solution, all the 3D softwares, the best one in the class was on this conference. And I was wondering if at least one will talk about the problem of digitizing textiles and making them realistic in those. So nobody ever even talk about this, because they need to sell the 3D and they say how it's great, and they don't say the downside, that fashion is not the automotive industry, where of course there is a rigid metals. You can do so much AR in design process. You can sell it in AR, shoes and bags, okay, they still also kind of a rigid thing. But when it comes to materials, draping, how it feels, and even Tommy Hilfiger, when they talk that they will go fully digital for 3D from the first time they create the project to the last they sell, they don't talk about material. They have material library, which is standardized materials, just an images and icons, and it's just a picture of it, but it's not the idea how behaves, you know. And I was just surprised when nobody even asks about this, nobody even talks about this. And we talk about materials are critical. We need to think because sustainability in materials, again, maybe this is difficulty also to understand. It's not only about circular fashion. It's not only about recycling. It's not only about fibers. There are materials which are durable and can go to second-hand market. There are amazing high-quality materials. There are amazing, I would say, like, you just love the material and you wear this garment a lot. Maybe it's not sustainable, but you wear it for quite years, you know. So the sustainability, it's a material topic that we don't have a lot of information on materials to say which materials are good and which are bad. And also with the digital actually decreases a lot of information that we don't get. What I mean by this, we can say, even for example, size and fit solutions, so popular today, bring amazing results to e-commerce shops. But there is one small thing that, for example, on me, I can wear XS and S. And when I go to the physical shop, I have an option to compare and choose the best fit. When I receive online, I cannot compare and I'm okay with whatever I receive. The same happens in the quality. People are okay with whatever they receive because they don't have option to compare and touch textiles. You understand? When you go to physical, they say, you know, we have a better quality, a little bit different design, but just touch. And you love it and you say, okay, I get it. But you don't have this opportunity online. You will be fine with what you will have. And that's a dangerous trend. Because I saw a lot of companies when they sell online and they know it goes to e-commerce store, they reduce the quality. Because there is no way to compare products. Because that's the downside of the digital, is decreasing the information.
Okay, thank you. Johannes just add another question in, but in your website, you speak of a full digital ID of textile material, biometric, big data, language of extraction, isn't it? No? So I think he's referring to the aim, or what your long-term solution is, to provide a digital tool in the end to really make to talk about textiles, or to get the feel and the touch. And I think
yeah, maybe it will, of course it will come the day when we will be doing this online and haptic will feel, but the fashion will never be substituted so much by digital will take its place. Of course, it will take the same as e-commerce still takes place, but physical and wearing the garments will not go away like never. It will maybe be decreased a bit, which is good again for sustainability issues, but it will not go. But then there is important again that the sensory data and the quality, it's a craftsmanship. It's a knowledge of people, you know, and we just want to kind of, this word, I cannot find this word for this, to preserve this. And yes, we will be, after going into tactile sensing and understanding the sensory data, and what we actually capture today is far more information than we need, just because we know in the future we will develop something for that, but only with the aim to keep actually this knowledge and advancement and craftsmanship, because we see with the digital actually decreasing, and many textile suppliers you will ask, they will say, you know, quality goes away. Nobody cares about quality, and we want to reverse this and bring this back.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's thank you for your answer. I hand over back to Michèle for her question.
Yeah, we don't have any other questions in the chat. If anybody wants to ask a question or develop anything around this panel, this roundtable, just please put your questions in there. I just wanted to move towards the end of this section into looking from Chitra to think about how we support, how we really support these startups, these entrepreneurs such as Shana and Teresa, in their mission to innovate meaningful and sustainable change within the fashion system. So you've given a lovely presentation. You've told us how you've been working with young startups. I'm just wondering about the sustainable change, how we can really ensure that FashionTech enables that as well through our support.
I think, you know, it's a great question, and I think it's something, you know, the mentoring obviously only lasts for a specific period of time, and I think it's about creating a community that can sustain through ongoing events, ongoing support through coaching, and actually learning the skills of coaching, asking the right questions, facilitating contacts, and using some of the tools that you've talked about, the hackathons, connecting people. I think it was maybe Jana or Teresa, I can't remember, who said, you know, you sometimes stay in your little bubble and you don't know people from another discipline or area or technique or expertise. So making those facilitating activities that provide the opportunity for those connections is really critical. And doing that regularly, so you're maintaining that energy and that sort of continual support without controlling, but creating the context for it, I think is really important, because that's when ideas spark, and because it's such an experimental and innovative area, people or founders within that space need to develop confidence through connections and having those conversations and feedback and insight from conversations, whether it's about the business strategy or the product strategy or another area. But those conversations really help.
Chitra, there's a question coming up for you. A question: how do the students, alumni access the mentorship program of Define?
Well, the mentorship program is a selective program. So the businesses are selected because they may be at a particular stage of their business. But the startups or the alumni can enter the Define community, and very welcome to do so, to actually be part of the community. And as the business is developed and it becomes possibly more viable or at a critical stage, then they may be open for selection to the mentoring program.
Can I add on this also be mentee? Already alumna. I would say that, you know, it's surprising that the fashion industry and professionals, and especially in the Define program, it's a great program it was for me at least, is that everybody is open and everybody is really connecting and helping. So even if you are already out of the program, just reach out again to these people and they are very happy to put you again, and people are happy to take time and spend with you an hour or maybe follow up regularly for a free basis. It's not that you have to pay, you have to feel like, you know, you are nagging people. No, I feel like a community who really trying to move industry forward and bring to the Europe level. I mean, everybody, it feels like everybody understands that. At the end of the day, we are really at the early stage. There is no competition. There is no such a thing as to be closed. It's actually opposite. We have to be open and help each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I think we are just heading to the end of this round table, and what I would like to do is give actually a short wrap up for everyone what we have been discussed and what I think are great learning from this. So I think what came to the table is that we need each other's knowledge. We need to bring very different fields together. That I think has been was very well explained. And that we really need to merge knowledge and learn from, for example, visual effects and gaming, and integrate them into the fashion industry. And at the same time, learn engineers and IT specialists to what the world of fashion entails, because it's really bringing two very different worlds together. So it means, and that also has been addressed in our E4FT program, that it's a lot about interdisciplinarity and that we need to be open, that soft skills and collaborations are really important. Then I think another strand, COVID-19 has also, I think, might be for digitalization and fashion tech a positive move, because it has forced the industry to just fall back on digital solutions, because it was hard to do the things in live, or traffic and transportation was difficult. So I think that's probably has been a positive move. And then I think what's very good is that it's all, and that's why I think Chitra's contribution, but also learning from you as startups, community building and actually sharing with each other as a really open source, what we need to learn from each other, because the business model, maybe a financial model, but also a structure of a company, and all those different things are really changing in building a new world that is a more digital, takes a digital approach to fashion. So that, I think, is what we can learn from today, and that helps us, I think, to improve or learn or to follow up the world of fashion tech in the future. So I would like to thank Zana and Teresa for giving a very nice insight in their companies. Chitra in giving them some insights in mentoring and learning from what the new generation of small enterprises actually are bringing to the table. And last one, Michèle, thank you very much for preparing this and being very dedicated and aligned to the project and selecting this. So thank you all very much. And then I will hand over, I think, to Chiara, but I know we have a little break now. But not sure if Chiara wants to come in. But thank you all for joining us, and thank you for the questions. And yeah, see you later today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you.
Thank you, José. Thank you, Michèle, and thank you for our guests for a brilliant discussion. Thank you to all participants. As said, we are going to have a break until 2:30 CE time, so Italian time. We are going to come back in 1 hour, therefore, with a second roundtable that will focus on the educational tools. It will be a discussion led by University of Borås team, by Jonas Larsson and Anne Velisalu, that will discuss with trainees and trainers about the evaluation of the educational tools and resources developed in the E4FT project in relation to the relevance of the topics that we have already touched this morning. We'll hear from teachers and students about their experiences developed within the project, and we'll add additional points of discussion, including concrete measures needed to implement the fashion tech curricula in Europe. So we hope that you'll come back again in 1 hour, and let's remember there will be a following further roundtable at 4 p.m. So I wish you a great lunch break and see you later. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.